morning, everyone. My name is Dwayne Mosbey, pronouns he, him, his, and I currently work as a program coordinator for the Resource Center for Sexual and Gender Diversity at UC Santa Barbara. I would like to start off by saying what an honor it is to have been selected as a keynote speaker for the virtual LGBTQ Youth Convening 2020. Before diving into the work that I do and giving you all a rousing, inspiring, and hopefully slightly comedic speech about queer leadership and activism, I would like to share a story with you all about my time as a queer youth in Orange County. Now, I'm not always sure if things happen for a reason, but there are times when I have to believe that there is a little bit of serendipity at work in the universe. When I was initially asked to speak, I was in a state of disbelief for a couple reasons. Firstly, from my initial perspective, I'm fairly early in my career in activism. This opportunity in my mind was usually reserved for some Ivy League graduate who created this new revolutionary research. But after taking a step back, I realized I had nearly a decade of activism experience that began in high school. Not only that, but that activism experience had a direct correlation with youth empowered to act. Now, before diving in, I would like to give a content warning revolving around coming out and homelessness. Be sure to take care of yourself at any point during the speech, and not only during this speech, but also through the entirety of this conference. Now, the story begins at my high school alma mater. Picture it, Buena Park High School, 2012. At that point, I was still a closeted high schooler, hoping not to make any waves. It was one of those things where no one asked, but when I came out to my friends, they were all like, "We've been new." I had been really involved in high school at that time. I was a part of the cross-country team, Black Heritage Club, ASB, Key Club, and Best Buddies, just starting to worry about applying to colleges and imagining a life that was so much different from my own, where I could be the truest form of myself. I just began experimenting with the idea of coming out and began to look up different resources and groups nearby that I could talk to. I'd also been seeing someone at the time, and we would often go to a mall in a different city, random parks to hang out, honestly anywhere where we could be ourselves and show our love for each other without the risk of anyone we know finding out. One day, we decided that we would try to study at my place while my parents were at work. So we got there and we set ourselves up at the kitchen table. Little did I know that my dad had decided to take that day off to surprise me and walked into me kissing my boyfriend at the kitchen table. The next hour and a half was a blur. The shouting, the screaming to get out, ducking things that were being thrown, me grabbing my backpack, grabbing extra clothes, hitting cash, and sprinting out the door. My boyfriend's tires screeching, and then me realizing later that neither of us looked back or talked to each other again. I gained clarity sitting in one of those cement river basins right off of Orange Thorpe Avenue, frantically calling friends, anyone that I thought could help, and just thinking, what was I supposed to do? Definitely at such a young age, what was it that I could do? And I looked over at my backpack and I thought, school. My only option is school. My only safe haven, my only guarantee for a future is getting my education. So the next morning, shrugging off the dirt, the cold, and the comments about me wearing the same clothes as yesterday, I went to 5 a.m. cross-country practice. I took a shower following practice, savoring the post-run breakfast our coach had always provided. I told no one. I didn't ask for help. I stayed after school longer inside than anyone else. And this continued for a couple weeks, and at the peak of me feeling really alone, I remembered a space where I might be able to tell people what was happening to me. And I caught the first bus over to the Center OC. I walked into that YETA meeting and felt validated and safe for the first time in weeks. But something held me back from asking for more help. A fear that my life would change forever. That I would be ripped from the school, ripped from my only safety option that I knew, from the one security that I had. So I left that meeting. But I held on to that feeling of validation and told myself that I would be able to feel it again someday. Promising that if there was even just one person that I could make feel the same way that I did, that I would do it. And a spark had been ignited. 2 more weeks passed and I was asked to return home. My parents appearing in the front office to pick me up for a doctor's appointment. The front office having no idea what had transpired in the past month. The silence at home was a welcome trade-off for the roof over my head. The excess prayers at dinner were not. But none of that mattered, none of that. Because in my mind, I had a renewed path to a goal, to be successful despite everything that had happened to me. To celebrate the flaws in myself and in others. And if I could survive that, I could survive anything. So the following year, I hit the ground running. I got involved in over 15 clubs, 3 sports teams, and a little shop of horror musical that I still dream about to this day. In addition, I became a part of an organization called Youth Leadership America, which takes high schoolers and teaches them skills in business and etiquette and community building. And as a part of that program, we had to do a community service project that would have a lasting impact. And the first thing that sprang to my mind was Yetta. My team created a nonprofit organization called the Illumination Project, which would pair with other organizations to throw events and raise awareness and money for a particular cause. So we decided to do a queer fashion show with the folks who were a part of Yetta. In the end, we raised over $500 and loads of clothes that were donated to shelters all across Orange County. The feeling of satisfaction and joy I got from giving back to this organization, who probably did not realize the impact that they had on me, was overwhelming. But the million thank yous and me handing over the money didn't feel like the end of that for me. It was the beginning of the blossom of my work as an activist and as an advocate for folks who identify as queer and trans. And my traumas and experiences were really shaped where I thought I would be most successful at completing my aforementioned mission. And it led me to exploring politics, queer student organizations, police mediation, programming, and activism. And all of that culminated into the position that I have currently as a program coordinator at the RCSGD at UCSB. And my work has largely been centered around a transformative resistance model of social justice. So working within the system in order to make it better and create more opportunities for folks to have equity. It meant me being in spaces where there weren't many folks who look like me or share the same identities I do. And I recognize that these inequalities exist and that the system is corrupt, yet I still work within it because these systems are not disappearing. We are required to live within them. We are required to play the game, and that sucks. But it doesn't have to forever. And it doesn't have to for others to the same extent that it did for me. My objective is creating cracks within the system of oppression that seem very minor to some, but that I know will be a part of the chain reaction for folks in the future, for folks like you all, to topple it over with just a tap. Folks assume that since you're at the gate, that you're a gatekeeper, preventing other folks from having the same opportunities that you have. But my purpose is to hold the gate open so that everyone can have those opportunities. My purpose is to let you know as you pass through those gates of what lies ahead and how to circumvent them. My purpose is to ensure that anyone who wants to enter through those gates can do so and be able to have the tools so that one day we can break those barriers down and that gate doesn't exist. During my time, some of the work that I've been proudest of is creating UCIV, which is a student-led group that acts as an intermediary force between law enforcement, local students, and community members in Isla Vista, California, which is located adjacent to UCSB. As well as my all-gender restroom work, which includes me advocating for a new all-gender restroom map for campus, advocating for multi-stall and single-stall restrooms to have an increased amount on campus, and creating a new policy that would outline what those facilities would look like. I've also worked very hard to teach folks, especially queer and trans people of color, to navigate professionalism. There's an amazing article called "You Call It a Professionalism, I Call It Oppression in a Three-Piece Suit," that really talks about how these systems of professionalism were not built for us. So I'm trying to teach these folks, these queer and trans people of color, how to not only survive within the system, but also how to thrive in it. And lastly, one of the proudest things that I've been able to do is support the same queer organizations that I are a part of, giving them the tools and opportunities to make sure that they're succeeding to the same degrees and retaining in college as their cis heterosexual white counterparts. There are a lot of times that I felt like giving up during this past decade of activism, and not just around the advocacy I was doing, but also on myself. It can be discouraging to exist in a world that wasn't built for you. It doesn't feel like a place where you belong, or if you're working in a system that wasn't built for you. But whenever you feel like that, I want you to always remember that you didn't get this far to just get this far. When you can't believe in yourself, I want you to think of all of those who do believe in you and have been there to support you. I want you to think of those who have made you smile and who you've in turn made smile. And although we may not occupy the same physical space right now, I want you to think of those who are here in this moment with us, our community. The folks who have been bonded to us not by the same blood, but by experiences and desire to have love and be loved. You are not the first to experience these difficult times, and you will not be the last. But you can make that path easier for someone who comes after you. But you don't have to do any of this alone. The greatest feats in history are those that have been completed by people in collaboration and support of each other. Think of Stonewall, think of the Warrenton War Conference composed over 200 LGBTQ leaders. You have that history, that spirit, that resilience coursing through you, waiting to erupt and showcase the greatness and wonder that is within you, to your friends, your families, and your community. The time for action and to speak up for our communities is ever present. The words of Audre Lorde capture it best. The fact that we are here and that I speak these words is an attempt to break that silence and bridge some of the differences between us. For it is not difference which immobilizes us, but silence. And there are so many silences to be broken. So I want to thank you for the work that you've done. Thank you in advance for the incredible work that you're going to do. Let you know that I am proud of you, and that all of us here in your community will be here to support you. So thank you, everyone. Have an enjoyable conference, and be sure to stay safe.